Hi, this is Bill Monty from the podcast Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older and Tales from South Florida. I am here today to talk to you about podcasts. Not specifically listen to that thunder. South Florida days, right? Anyway, I today am wearing my Ask Me About My Podcast t-shirt, as I do many days. And in going about the town, people will come up and they say, tell me about your podcast because of my t-shirt. And so I'll tell them I have two podcasts. It's available on YouTube, Spotify, Pandora, Amazon Music, wherever you listen to podcasts, you can find it. But here's my business card. There's 2 QR codes. Each one will take you to my website for my podcast. Do you listen to podcasts? And they will look at me and very enthusiastically, they will say, no. Why not? I will ask. Well, because I don't know how. You don't know how to listen to a podcast? Well, folks, if you're one of those people who you see my post popping up on Facebook or on Nextdoor, and you think, wow, that guy's nice. He's always got these really nice posts. However, I don't know how to listen to that podcast he's talking about. This is how you do it. A podcast is basically radio on demand. So we all know how to listen to radio, right? As a matter of fact, more important, do you know how to listen to a cassette from the old cassette players? There was a little play button. There's a little triangle turned on its side, right? You press that, and magically music would come out of the cassette player because the cassette tape was playing and rolling. Well, it's the same thing with a podcast. If you listen on YouTube, let's say, there's a little arrow button, but sometimes there's not that little play button, right? Sometimes it's just an image. What do you do then? You click on the image, and the podcast episode will start playing. Sometimes the link will take you to a website, and you'll see all of the episodes lined up. So then you get to choose. It's like chapters in a book. Which chapter do you want to read right now? Click on that chapter, boom, instant podcast. That's how you listen to a podcast. And remember, very important to the podcast and podcasters like moi, please hit that subscribe button. That will tell you when there's new episodes of the podcast being released. So if you really like the subject matter, that's what you want to do. And please, please, please hit the like button. That tells us we're doing a good job, and keep it up. And sometimes podcasting is a lonely business, so we like seeing this as often as possible. Also, feel free to leave comments. We do like to hear your kind words about the work that we're doing. Yeah, podcast, radio on demand. Hey, we all remember radio, right? My parents, when they listened to radio, there wasn't no television to watch. So they would all sit around and they'd listen to baseball games, and they would listen to football games, college football especially, and they would get their news from it. They'd listen to Edward R. Murrow from England, and they would listen to a ventriloquist. What? Yeah, Edgar Bergen was a ventriloquist on radio. What did it matter if his lips moved or not? You couldn't see him. Years later, when Edgar Bergen moved on to television, we found out he moved his lips. There was also Blackstone the Magician. That's good magic on radio when you can't see it. So the big difference between radio and podcasting is while there probably won't be a magician doing magic tricks on the radio, there's probably a magician who will teach you how to do magic tricks on a podcast. There's probably a ventriloquist who will teach you how to be a ventriloquist on his podcast. There's podcasts about anything that you want to learn about. So go ahead, explore, and be sure to listen to Bill Monty's Guide for Getting Older. It's not about being old. It's about getting older, which we're all doing all the time. And my Tales from South Florida. I do so appreciate it. Thank you so much. I hope this had helped you, and you now know how to listen to podcasts, and we will see you on the flip side.